right, so whatever we are listening here, we should be able to see it as a recording available for us after the end of the class. So Amol does a very good job on this. He keeps us under control and check so that we can replay the entire class available for you through your Yahoo group that you will be requested to join. So what is happening here is the class that I'm conducting is being recorded for you, and it will be provided to you as a link in your email, and you can revisit the entire class that you have seen now, be available in your mailbox and play it back. So what you would be benefited? Yes, you will be definitely benefited because you will be able to see the class all over again. And you can refer back to the class for any notes that you want to make. You'll be able to visit this and see what's going on. For example, you missed a concept that you were trying to focus on in the class, and you did not get the basics of that concept. You can always go back, refer to this video, and listen to the demo that you have here for today and find out what's going on. So this is a recording that will be provided to you for every class. Now, coming back to the roles that we were talking about. So we have a tester role, we have an analyst role, we have a senior analyst, then you will become a team lead. After you become a team lead, you may just become a senior team lead. You will then become an assistant manager or a manager. Then you will become a director. So that's the hierarchy that you see. And as you go up in the food chain, your pay rate will change depending on the company that you work for, depending on the industry that you're going into, so on and so forth. So now, getting back into the real part of our training, the first thing that I would like to share is help you understand what an application is. What does the application do, and how does it deliver what you see on the screen? So for example, when you're looking at an application, this application, for example, let's say Amazon.com. So when Amazon.com is written on your application browser, for example, Internet Explorer or Chrome on your laptop or on your desktop, or for that matter, even on your handheld devices like your PDAs, your tablets, or your cell phones, it is going through one of the list of available options on the platform. Then you use the browser. Through the internet, you will go to the application. So now you are at the application when you say Amazon.com. Now on Amazon.com, you can perform different activities. Can anyone summarize what activities could be done on Amazon.com? Anyone?
Yeah, what kind of product you want.
So you can find a product.
Yeah.
So you could find a product. So when you find a product that you want, what can you do with that?
Order it.
Order it, absolutely right. But if I have already ordered a product and I did not receive it in time, so what are my options?
Cancel it.
Okay. I can do a search for product. I can buy the product. I can cancel the product. If I don't like the product that was delivered to me, or the vendor who was dealing with me, I did not like the vendor, I can write a feedback for that person on the application. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right.
So I can provide feedback. So now I can buy, I can sell, I can write comments, I can check the status of my order that I have placed, and so many other activities can be done. So which means that any application that you work with does a lot of functions. Each of these functions is based on some business guidelines. Each of these business guidelines has business rules. For example, when you're trying to execute a payment using a credit card for an item that you're buying, what will happen? The credit card payment process that you have needs to validate that you have a legitimate card, it has not expired, and it has balance available to execute the trade that you're trying to do. So if these basic conditions are not met, which is my business rules, I cannot execute the step. So similarly, when we talk about functions that need to be executed on the application, the functions have guidelines, which is called my business process or business rules. How are these business rules defined? Anyone?
Business rule defined. It's defined from the client.
So did I hear that right? The business rules are defined by the client. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So when we talk about business rules, we talk about guidelines based on which the function will operate. Now, we also call these guidelines as requirements. So I must have requirements that need to be met for a function to be completed or executed properly. So we have those requirements. These requirements are for a function. Now what happens? I write the requirements are ready. I now want this requirement to be implemented in a software. So what happens now? I need someone from IT who will translate the requirement into IT relevant terminology. So when we talk about, I'm sorry, that? So when these requirements are written, these requirements have to be converted into IT jargon so that our engineers, software engineers, can understand what business needs. Based on those needs that have been defined in the requirements, a SRS, a System Requirement Specification document, is created, which is not done by quality assurance, it's done by business analysts. So you could be working as a quality analyst, which is quality assurance team member, or you could become a business analyst. But to be a business analyst, you need to understand the business very well, and you also need to understand how the business operates. So the business analyst is responsible for getting the requirements and translating them and giving us something called SRS, which is System Requirement Specification, or a Functional Requirement Specification document. Now, based on this document, my IT team, my developers, will start working on the application. They will develop the application. Now, my product is ready, but it is not quality controlled. So now comes the QA role, the quality assurance team, who will look at the system requirement specifications and create the test cases. Now, the test cases that you create should cover all requirements in every regard. So now comes the test case preparation that you need to execute. So you will create the test cases, and when you create a test case, you need to write down the steps. What am I doing in the test case? How am I planning to cover what is specified in my specifications? What kind of data do I need? What kind of steps do I need to execute so that I can certify the requirement that has been given to me from business and also my business analyst? So once we get all this, we are ready to execute our test cases. So when we start executing our test cases, what will happen? Anyone? So you're trying to look into something to find out if it works the way you think it should work. Now, you switch on, let's say you bought a video player, a camcorder. Now, when you start operating the camcorder, what do you expect? You expect the camcorder to capture the video and audio and store it into a media or a medium. If it does not work that way, what does that tell you? Anyone? Let me ask this question differently. You went to Best Buy, you bought a video camcorder, came back home, tried to use it, it does not work. So what happens?
you bought a defective product and it has to get sent back?
So it needs to go back to Best Buy because the product does not work. So Best Buy will send it back to the company. Let's say it was from XYZ. Now this XYZ will need to fix that, or XYZ will need to give you a replacement for that. So now if the product does not meet the standard that is expected by the consumer, what will happen? You will lose business. If you lose business, you lose the dollar value of your share that's in the market. If you lose share in the market, your stock value goes down. Your stock value goes down, no one is happy. So bottom line, when you're talking about quality assurance directly associates with the dollars with which you will be able to hold yourself in the marketplace. So for example, stock exchange. If stock exchange is not able to give you a response for a trade that you want to execute, a buy trade or a sell trade for shares, obviously you will not go and buy the service from them. Now, how many of you are familiar with a search engine? Hear my question very carefully. How many of you are familiar with a search engine other than Google?
We have Yahoo and Bing as well.
So Yahoo and Bing. Is there anything else?
YouTube.
YouTube is not a search engine. YouTube is a website that will give you videos. Right?
Bing. Okay.
Yeah, Bing is another search engine, yes. So why do you think everyone just knows about these 2 or 3 search engines that we've just talked about? Because the quality of service, what they offer as compared to Lycos, as compared to Alta Vista, as compared to the hundreds of other search engines that exist in the market, because these search engines provide the best possible results in the shortest possible time, which means the quality of the response that you get from these is far superior than the quality of the results that they get from the other search engines, which is why Google has the preferred benefit by every consumer. At least every consumer that I know of uses Google at least, if not more, 25 to 30 times every day. And how many users are there for Google? Probably billions. So the benefit of quality assurance clearly converts into dollar value for an enterprise. So better the quality of your product, the better is the chances of you making more money on your product. So bottom line, if the product sells, I have money and I have good stock price and everyone is happy. My shareholders are happy, my employees are happy, and all the members of the team get fat bonuses. So everyone is happy. So if my product quality is good, which is dependent on how I have tested my product. How I test my product is dependent on how I understand my requirements, how my system requirements have been given to me, how they have been tested, what is the process for testing. So all this put together gives me a good idea of what my important quality assurance contribution is to a product. Now, this is a brief background. I think this is about 30,000 feet overview of the importance of quality. I will open the floor for your questions that you would like to know in terms of the courseware, the course that we have here, the way we conduct our classes, and any other open question. And then I'll come back to the subject again. Anyone? Any questions here?
We are good so far.
We're good so far? Okay, thank you. Anyone? Any other questions? Anthony?
No.
All right. Rahman, any questions? Maynard? Russell?
No.
Srinivasan?
No questions.
All right. Wawalu? So now let me take all of you back to how we do training here. So when we start training here, what we're going to do is we're going to follow a few guidelines. First of all, what we're going to do is we're going to provide you a DVD that contains electronic copy of all the training material that we use in the class. So this DVD is a wealth of knowledge that contains information about a lot of stuff. It has study material that has information about hardware concepts. It has information about programming. It has information about networking. So this is a good knowledge repository for you to get up to speed with concepts in IT. The people who are starting new in IT will find it very, very helpful. Not that this is be-all and end-all of anything and everything that you will need in your QA training or QA career path, but this is a consolidated location where you find everything. You'll be able to find everything on Google as well, but we have kind of consolidated everything and presented this for you here. It is highly recommended that you spend about 10 hours a week at home other than the training that we provide to you. Now this 10 hours is to review what you've done in the class and also spend some time with this training DVD so that you can brush up your concepts. Information that I'm sharing here with you is basically giving you how we conduct our training. Every day our training is from 9:30 to 5:30. Our day is divided into the morning session, the afternoon session, and each of these sessions has a 15-minute break. There is, of course, 1 hour lunch as well, because when you're traveling to a remote location and you need to charge up yourself, you need a 15-minute break in the mid-morning session, in the afternoon session as well. So we will be giving you, I'm not sure who all have signed up already. So the students who have already signed up may already have this document with them, and some of you who would be joining will be getting this document soon. This will give you a breakdown of everything that we do in our training. How we conduct our training, what are the various concepts that we will be covering in our training, everything is listed here. So we will be following this program that is listed here for 8 days, and each of this is on Sundays only. So every Sunday starting next week and 8 weeks after that, we will be conducting these classes. And in this class, we will be following this curriculum where we will be sharing everything that we do with you during the program. Now, this is always the case with every class that I go with. They define in some cases that they would like to stress more on certain concepts. So what happens? We maintain the flexibility of altering the program that we have to suit the class that we have. For example, here we have more freshers who are coming into this batch. So there may be some concepts that you would like to repeat here or spend more time on them so that you can get them and understand them better. So we maintain as a class, of course, with approval from the management, a little flexibility that we will be able to modify this curriculum to suit the class. So flexibility is in my hands. Of course, I will need approval from the management to alter the course. All right? So this gives you a background of how we conduct. Next thing that I would like to highlight, now this is my 8 days of the training that I'm sharing here with you. Next thing that I'm showing you here, and I'm hoping that everyone who's online is able to see what I'm showing here on screen. Everyone, can you see what I'm showing you here?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. So this is a brief outline of our network that we have set up for your training. We have internet available from the class. There are a lot of servers that are available in our training program. These servers are information storehouses. They host applications. They host various data points for you to execute the training that we will be working with. So this is how my training lab is set up. In a very professional way, we will be able to guide you exactly how the lab is set up. What are the various nodes, the desktops that are used in training, how you can access my servers that I have, which are here remotely, how you'll be able to store information on them, how you'll be able to retrieve information from them. Now, this is how we build up the confidence that you need for going into a project. So when I talk about this network diagram with you during the training program, I will explain each of these components that exist here and will help you build up the confidence that you will need when you go to your client site so that you can ask the relevant questions which is relevant for your project and in terms of understanding to deliver your job better. So this is one small example that I have here in the handout that you will be getting when you sign up. Next thing that I would like to show you here is the basic application architecture which will be covered in your training program. We will be able to explain each of these items that is available here, what it does and how it impacts the application delivery, how it is used in the application, how are the various options that are used for different applications, and how we will be able to test it. So all that is a part of our training. Our training also gives you a good understanding of the methodology. Now, a methodology is a recipe for success. This methodology is based on experiences from the software world over a period of time. A lot of big organizations have followed this process to make their recipe for success. So they keep this process to be a repeatable process, and based on that, they have had success every time. So the idea here is to give you a brief understanding of important aspects of this recipe. The most important part of this recipe is the software development life cycle. So when we talk about software development life cycle, we will break it down into how a software is evolved from a concept. When I talk about software, I talk about applications. I talk about applications which you use at home. Applications like Microsoft Word, applications like Microsoft Excel, PowerPoint. Also the web-based applications that you use for your normal day-to-day activities like Google, like Bank of America, like Chase, like Citibank, or for that matter CNN, or for that matter AT&T or Verizon applications that you use to execute anything and everything that you would like to do for your telephone service provider. So we will cover the software development life cycle. Then we will also segue into software testing life cycle, which is the important aspect for us to understand how my software testing needs to be conducted. What are the various steps in the software testing life cycle? Who's involved at each step? What are the various tools that I can use at each step so that I can deliver the software testing life cycle in the right perspective, so that I can capture the right audience, provide the right feedback to everyone in terms of the applications that we are working on. To execute all this, what we need is understanding of a few important applications that are used as a part of our software testing life cycle. Test Director, or also another application called Quality Center, is an important part of software testing life cycle. So Quality Center is used as one of our automation tools. Then the other automation tools we use is Windrunner. We also use QTP, Quick Test Pro. Then we also have LoadRunner. So these are the tools that are part of our training program in which we will be able to get you up to speed on how to execute my software testing life cycle, how to use these tools to improve my software testing life cycle so that I can shorten the duration of testing. I can automate my testing and deliver what I need to my client in the best possible way. Any questions here?
No.
Anyone?
No question.
All right. So with what we have seen here, the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a small demo of an application. And let's see what is your feedback about that application. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to open an application. What do you see on screen here?
Login page.
You're looking at login screen, okay? So what is there in this login screen?
Username and password.
So let's try and build this up. I see the login screen. In this login screen, you see the user ID and the password that needs to be keyed in, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So when I look at this application, I am given a guidance in my requirements document that this is how my user should be able to log into the application. And if the user is not able to log in successfully, let's say I provide some junk credentials here and I try to access the system. What happened?
Incorrect.
Yeah, go ahead.
Did not log in.
Login denied.
So my login has been denied. Very right. So what's happening here? You are doing an action on the application by opening the application. Once you open the application, then you have users interacting with the application. When the user interacts, the interaction step was provide user ID, provide password, and then click OK. This is the user input. Now, after the user has executed the action, for that action, the application will react, which is what you're seeing here, right? Is that correct?
Yes.
So the application feedback comes in. Now, based on the application feedback, the user has to take the next action. So what happens is, when you're doing your quality assurance on the application, quality assurance is basically a sum total of the user inputs, the system feedback, and again the user input that need to be done. In these steps that you are doing, you are verifying at each stage that the application is meeting the requirements that have been laid down. For example, when you saw this message come back, incorrect password, try again, it is based on some feedback that was originally provided by the product team in the requirements document. Now, what you see here is a different feedback. Is that correct?
Yes.
What we saw here was incorrect password, try again. Now it says please enter password. So based on the inputs the user has to the application and the various choices the user can exercise, the application reacts accordingly. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
So now let's try another thing. So we've seen one instance where we saw incorrect password. Now we are seeing please enter password. Let's try and modify this. Please enter agent name. Now the response that you're getting from the application is different than what you saw earlier. So all these options that you have just seen as a feedback from the application are a part of our testing. So a user.
These are all test cases? Sorry to interrupt. These are all test cases?
These are our test cases. You're absolutely right. So when I am given an application for testing, I need to write these test cases. And how do I write these test cases? I would look into my requirements. My requirements will say that when a user is trying to open the application and log in, and the user does activity like what we have seen. We've done 3 activities, right? The first activity, let me try and capture these, I think. That will probably help you understand this better. So this is my first situation where I have incorrect user ID and incorrect password, and this is the output that I get. So this is my input 1. And I'm going to store this in the background so that we can refer to this later. Now, in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write only the agent name. I'm not writing the password. And this is the feedback I get. So do you see these 3 different conditions that we've just visited now? The user input here, the user input in step number 2, user input in step number 3 is different. And based on the inputs, you're getting some feedback from the application or the system, whatever you want to call it. Now these
yeah,
go ahead.
These are all outcome, right? Do we store these outcomes somewhere to validate?
Yes, they will be part of your test case. So your test case will tell you that you open the application, write this information in these places. For user ID, you provide this value. For password, you provide this value and click OK. Now, this is just the input part of your test case. As you rightly said, there is an output as well. So when the user clicks the OK, then there is a feedback from the application, which is your expected result. So now you will also have the expected result, which is a part of your test case. So you have your input, you have your expected result. If my input and my expected result match my expectation in my test case, what will happen? My test case will pass, right?
Yes.
If it does not match, then my test case will fail. Do you agree?
Yes.
So this is how my testing is conducted. So my testing, as of now, I'm just doing ad hoc testing for you because I don't have test cases that I have pre-prepared for the execution that I'm doing here, right?
Yes.
So based on this, what I'm sharing with you, you will have an application. In that application, you will have your test cases. You will execute the test cases and you will certify the application works as expected or not. That's the goal that we have for the training program. But how will I write the test cases? How will I know what type of data is required? How will I know how to check the feedback from the application? All that will be a part of our training. How will I define what values do I need to use here? How will I check what is there in this application? All that is part of my training that I will be sharing with you. Does it make sense?
Okay.
Everyone?
Okay.
Now, let's look at one more thing here. When I find this, at some point in time, my application will have some negative feedback. see this? This feedback is different than what we've seen in the past. Login unsuccessful, please try again. We have not seen this earlier, right?
Yes.
What's happening here, the application user authentication workflow has some guidelines that when the user is attempted n number of times, after that the user should be responded that your login has been unsuccessful, you have to try again. And when you have to go for try again, watch what happens. The application itself closed. So these are the guidelines that are part of my requirements, which will be a part of my test case as well, and I will exercise those accordingly. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yes. But in this case, I have one question. Please try again after. Please try again later means, what the later means? After 30 minutes, after 1 day, after 1 week?
Okay, now that's a very good question we have here. Now, it is dependent on what my business requirements are. You could have business requirements which clearly mandate that user will not be able to log in into the application after 5 invalid attempts. And this ban that you have on the user could be on the session that you are doing, could be for a day, could be permanent that you have to request for a new user ID or a password. So it could be anything that has been defined by business. Does it make sense?
Yeah, yes, it makes sense.
Right. So it is dependent on the guidelines that you have been provided with to build the software. And I'm not saying one is right or the other is wrong. I'm saying whatever I am told in my business requirements, I am executing based on that requirement. So when I execute based on the requirement that has been shared with me, and I certify the application is working as expected, is purely dependent on what I am told to do. Does it make sense?
Yeah, yes. But in this case, you are telling that we are not challenged the business requirement, but we need to add whatever business requirement is, right?
No, as of now, I have not shown you a business requirements document. I'm just showing you the application.
Okay.
So when you look at the business requirements document, you will be more structured in your approach, right? You will read the requirements and you will try and cover each and every bit of the requirement in your testing. Is that correct?
Yeah, I understand.
So as of now, we have not looked at the requirements. I'm just looking at the application and sharing with you. Now let's see what happens if I'm able to successfully log into the application. The idea is to give you an understanding of what is testing all about. So here we saw that testing is about the application being able to perform basic functions like user should be able to log in with no issues. So now, let's hope the application allows me to log in. All right. So now, the application is doing some handshake and gives me a new window . And on this window, I can execute what I need to do. So this application that you're looking at is for flight reservation. So this is a sample application that we use for training. When we are looking at this, let's say we provide a date of December 1st, 2012 to make a booking. Now be careful about the activities that I'm doing. I picked up a date in the past to book a flight. Can you book a flight in the past?
No way.
We cannot, right? So which is what is the feedback from the application. So my requirements will say the user should not be able to book a flight in the past. That's requirement, right? So now, to meet that requirement, I will have to write a test case where I would try to make a booking, but this booking is dependent on a minimum of 2 inputs, a date and also a location from where I want to fly. And the moment I make these 2 choices, the application gives me a feedback. Sorry, your booking date has to be greater than today's date. Sounds logical, right? Everyone?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I am apologetic for one simple thing. I need constant feedback from everyone who's participating with me, because that helps me understand that it validates that, yes, we are engaged, number one. Second, if there is any feedback that I find which does not help us move in the right direction, I would like to correct that. So you may feel a little overwhelmed by interaction with me, but I would appreciate if we get constant feedback. All right?
All right,
Okay.
sounds good.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. So now, let's say that I'm going to make a booking for 31st of December 2013, and I'm flying from Denver to Frankfurt. Now, as soon as I select Frankfurt, I would like your keen eye to observe the application very carefully and tell me if you find any change.
The flight icon lights up.
So the flight icon lights up. Very well said, and good observation. So now what you're looking at here is based on the user interaction with the application, there are changes that happen in the application. These are also a part of my requirement. And I will have test cases to validate this. So now, what do you expect here? I have my flight to location. I also have the date. So now I should see a choice of flights that I can fly. These are the flight numbers which are from Denver to Frankfurt. There are various arrival times. There are different airlines, and there's a different price point for each of them. If you notice, there is some logical madness in this table here. Can anyone pinpoint as to how the results here have been arranged?
By flight number.
Based on the flight number, these results have been organized. The flight number ascending or descending? Sorry, I may be asking some dumb questions, very obvious.
Descending.
These are things in flight number range, right?
Yeah.
Right.
These are again defined as a part of my requirement, that when the flight table is delivered, it should have available flights based on the criteria and be sorted in this specific fashion. Also, there will be conditions where it will say very clearly that the user cannot select the same flight. So the user cannot select more than one flight at a given point in time, right? So I cannot select more than one. I can select only one, right?
Yes.
So this is also part of my requirements, which clearly says that this is how it should operate. Now watch what happens when I make a choice here. So let's say I am selecting 14686 and I pick that option. What's the change that happens in the application?
The details
Did you
come.
notice that change?
Name entry is
Name
enabled
button.
and a pointer to your name text entry.
Right. So let's observe this once again very carefully. All this was empty when we started, right? Let's start again. So I populate the date. I select the travel, I pick a flight, and notice what happens when I pick a flight. The name is open. I can type in my name at this point in time, the choice of my name. But the flight number, departure, all these fields that you have, these are not available for the user, right? Does it make sense?
Yeah.
So now when I make a choice here, let's pick up another flight. Okay, let's do one more thing. Let's capture this again and see it as how it impacts us. Let's go back to the application once again and make a choice now. Let's compare these two screens that we have on the left and right. Is there any difference in here? Yes, there's a lot of difference, right?
Yes.
So what has happened here? The business defined the requirements in which it clearly mandated that as the user makes a choice of the flight, this data should be pre-populated as soon as the user makes a choice. Also, the class of travel should be selected by default as economy. The number of tickets should be 1, and the name column should be available for the user to type in. This is again defined in my requirements. This is again as a part of my requirements. I need to test. I will have test cases for this. Now, as I type in the test case name, let's say I'm going to type in name here. Did you see what changed when I typed?
Yeah, the
Notice? Yeah.
Titan.
The insert order gets enabled, right?
Ticket order and ticket number pop up.
Well, ticket number is there because we selected. By default, it is coming to 1 only, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So we have a passenger name. If the passenger name is populated, I also have the insert button in my application enabled, right?
Right.
So once I make the insert click, it can change a lot of things. For example, I want to show you another thing. I can select 2 tickets instead of 1. I'm not sure if you're able to capture what's going on. Are you able to see what's changing with that?
Yes.
Yeah, right after
Yes.
change, total amount is increased.
The total is changing. Absolutely great observation. Also notice as I change from the class, which is economy, to business, you see any change?
Yes, the price.
Yeah, price became different, total increase.
Right. The price changes and the total also changes based on the class. So the class changed, the number of tickets changed will affect the price of travel. This is a part of my requirement, which is the part of my testing, which is what we just looked at, and this is how we will test in the application. Now, the next step, I have defined my travel criteria. I have picked up my flight. I know my passengers, there are 5 passengers. I know my group, Deborah Jones group is traveling. They're traveling first class. Now, the next step of submitting this, let's see what happens. You notice it is giving you a feedback that we are processing your order. Your order is completed and your order number is 159. Right? Did you notice anything else that changed?
Yes.
Update order and a delete order enabled.
Right, absolutely right. So now what happens? Based on the user interaction with the application, there are various stages in a business process. So what we did now, first we saw the user authentication process. Then we look at the booking process. In the booking process, there are various actions a user will take. A user will select a flight schedule. Then the user will select a flight. Then the user will share the order information. User will provide the name and tickets. provide the class, then submit. So these are all steps that are in the create reservation process. In that process, there are stages or actions the user will take. These actions will result into something. Similarly, the results that you saw from here, you provide a date, and the moment you select your location to travel from, it does a validation of the date. When you make these two choices as the criteria, then it provides you a validation on available flights. When you select the flight, it brings the information here into the application. All this that we are showing you here, that I'm showing and discussing with you, is a part of my testing. Does it make sense?
Yeah, I guess. So in this case, these are all predefined actions. Based on that one, we are validating, right?
Yes, validating and verifying. That's what is testing all about.
Okay, thanks.
We'll validate the application feedback and we will verify the user inputs. Now, based on the validation and verification that you execute on the application, you should be able to certify that the application is able to support the requirements that you have, which is what will be a part of our training program.
Okay.
All right? So are you guys excited to be a part of this group where we will learn all this?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Now, any further questions that you have on the subject that we have covered so far?
No, no questions.
So, Amol, are you still there or you dropped off from the call? Amol? Amol, are you on mute?
Amol.
So, Amol, can you join us on the call? Can you join me on the bridge?
Amol
has joined the conference.
Yes, Ashish?
So, Amol, I just wanted to let you know that I think we have reasonably good understanding of what we offer in the training program with the candidates that are online now. Is there anything that you would like to ask them?
No, nothing. I think if you can just tell them about the server access that we are going to provide them, they might be, having some questions like if they are just going to cover the theory portion or they'll be practicing also. So if you can tell them something about the server access, all the tools that we are going to provide them, and something about Sandhu.
Okay, all right. That's a good segue that Amol is providing to us. Now, he used some words that you may not be familiar with, but let me just walk you through what he's referring to. When we talk about our training class that you're executing here, in this training class, this is the setup that we have for our lab in which you will be working. Now, as I mentioned to you, we have our class executed in a training lab. This training lab has a setup like you would see on your client side. Now, when you go to your client side, there will be some protocols that you need to meet. In those protocols, you will have to store all the documentation that you have on a network attached storage location. Some of the terms that I'm dropping here, you may not be very clear with those terms as to what they mean. But I am quite hopeful that as we proceed in the training, all these terms that I'm using will become very clear for you. So what we will do is everything that we are doing here, as I did for you in the documents here for you, the screen capture, the steps that we have executed, all these steps will be documented for you in your application environment and also on the tools that we use for training. So you will be writing all this as an exercise. You will be executing this hands-on on the application that is provided to you in the training lab. So when we go into the training lab, these units that you're looking at here, which are shown as desktops, these desktops will be available for you to execute everything that I do for you in the training class. So you will be able to exercise everything hands-on. So the entire setup that I have on my training system will be available on these systems as well for you. You'll be able to log in and you'll be following everything that I do in the class on these laptops yourself or these desktops that you see. And you're more than welcome to get your laptop into our training lab, but the only drawback on that is that your laptop will not be provided with the software that we use for training. Some software that is available from the web, you will be able to use that, but whatever is installed on the computers in the lab may not be available on your laptops. So do not expect the software to be installed on your systems or your laptops that you get with you. That's one aspect. And the second aspect is when you are, I think all of you are attending the session remotely, right? You will be able to participate in the training remotely as well, the way you're doing it now. And when you're training remotely, I will be able to, with help of Amol, be able to assign a computer that you can log into remotely. So you'll be able to log into that computer and execute the exercises that we do during our training program. That's what I think Amol wanted us to be aware of, and that's why he insisted that you could be in training in the class and you could be in training remotely as well. So you can log into a remote desktop from your home and still listen into the live meeting that I am showing you here and participate in the class. And you will be able to exercise everything that's going on in the class. Is everyone clear on this?
Yes.
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 Great.
Great. So with that being said, I think what I wanted to help you understand is about what we do, how we do it, what is our basic infrastructure setup, the kind of training we offer, the application that we use for training. All that has been covered as far as I wanted to share with you. Now, the floor is open for questions that you have or you might have regarding your association with us. So please feel free to go ahead and ask your question now. Anyone?
Is there any trial way to try this on our own, or do we always need to connect to server to that?
That's a good question. So regarding practice, when you are trying to practice after the class is over, you can be attending the lab. You can go there and you can during the weekdays you can go to the training center and use the training facility and exercise whatever you would like to do. You can also do the same thing remotely. Now, if you want to participate and practice remotely during weekdays, Amol has set up a very good process in which you will be able to use a calendar, book your time slot for the training machines that are available remotely and use them. We encourage you to participate as much as you would like 24/7. So there will be training machines that are available for remote access and you can use them 24/7. But the only thing is that we don't want contention. If you are working on machine 1, remote machine 1, we don't want student number 2 to trump you out of that. So what we encourage is that you fill up your time slots on the shared calendar so that everyone knows that machine number 1 is available for student number 1 from 10:30 p.m. to 12:30 p.m. And we expect you to respect that blockage. So I don't want student number 2 to go into that and trump user number 1, because we do not manage contention on our side. So if I am working on the machine and you log in onto the same machine, I will be logged off. Now, I'm sure you would not want that to happen to you, and I would like you to respect that if someone else is working, you have a respect for the person. So bottom line, you have availability of the training lab to do your practice. You also have the remote training lab 24/7, and there are multiple machines. You can use that as much as you want. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Any other questions?
The first download app, right?
Whoa! There's something exciting that Amol just shared with us. Can you see my screen?
What he just said? Lucky ones. Very, very part of.
We've been doing this training for almost 14 years, so we are not fly-by operators, right? You will be the part of, as Amol very rightly mentioned, you'll be the lucky ones who will participate in our 75th quality assurance batch. So you are part of batch number 75.
Why are you lucky?
Why you're lucky? Because we have had 24 batches before you, which tells you that our quality of training is acceptable in the market, right?
Oh, okay. Hey.
We are also, all right, so Amol is giving some interesting information that we are planning some great surprises for this batch.
What type of surprise?
Oh, that's a good one. I wish I knew it, because it's also a surprise for me. So with that being said, I think if you do not have any more questions, you have a feel of how your instructor is, what is your training program, how we conduct our training, and what is the amount of confidence that people have in our training, because they spend their nears and dears and friends to this training program. I think I don't have anything else for this demo session unless you have questions. If you are convinced, I'm sure you'll reach out to Amol, sign up for the training program, and we will see you in class or remotely on the following Sunday.
Okay.
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 Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry, what was the question? Sorry, I missed your question. Someone asked a question and I couldn't get that clearly.
So we can get the access of today's class, right? The video?
I think Amol should be sending out this snippet of today's video. That will be available for you. Amol, are you there?
Yes, Ashish. I will post it to Yahoo group so people can review the recording. I'll do it in a few hours.
Everyone who signed up on the Yahoo group and is a part of the batch 75, you should be able to get the link to this video and you can watch it.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. With that, I think, Amol, I can close the recording and then we can go back. Someone had a question here, sorry. Can you get a chance to install the software? Sorry, buddy, that's out. That's not possible. What's the difference between Windrunner and QTP? Srinath, are you still there?
Yeah, yes, I'm still here.
Okay, so your question regarding what's the difference between Windrunner and QTP? Let me ask you one simple thing about this. Windrunner was deprecated in the late 90s. And now what Windrunner used to do is being done with QTP. So Windrunner,
right?
I couldn't get you, sorry. Go ahead. What did you say?
Can we use one of the tools instead of the other?
Well, yes and no. I'll say yes because both are functional testing tools, so you can test the functionality of the application using Windrunner or QTP. But the technologies that QTP supports versus what Windrunner supports, there is a big difference. And also, QTP is more recent and Windrunner is old, so it does not support all the technologies that are available. And also, as the market evolves with new technologies and better ways of doing things, QTP has kept up with that, whereas Windrunner, once it was shelved, it was not really improved. For example, let's say that you are working on Windows 98. It will be able to give you some features and functions as compared to what Windows XP, Vista, or Enterprise version give you, right?
Yeah.
Hello? So there is a big change that you have in terms of the available technologies for Windrunner and QTP. That's the difference. And I will cover this in detail in the training program as well.
Okay, good.
All right?
Thanks.
You're welcome. So with that being said, I think I'll come close to this demo, and I hope to see you on Sunday at 9:30 at the Khoj training office or online when we sign in. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful weekend. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You too.